one of my great friends has a great new job. We wanted to talk with Michael Maidment today of the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. He's their new president and CEO. How does that feel, Michael?
I almost expected you to say Ottawa Food Bank for a second.
Exactly.
But it feels great though. It's really great to join this great team and be part of the important work that they're doing in the community.
It really is an incredible organization, and there's so many layers to what the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation does. And I'm sure in the early days of being their new leader, you're getting to know many of their programs that they offer at the center.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, although I'm new at the organization, I mean, so many of us are connected to cancer in one way or the other, and that's the case in my family too, and with friends and family, in fact. And there are many layers to the work that the organization does, but the overarching goal, I think, is ensuring that people who receive that diagnosis of cancer can live through that diagnosis, and it's an honor really to be a part of that important work.
And there's such an incredible team there. I think that's one of the sort of one of the best pieces for me when I have an opportunity to spend time at the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation is the team is so dedicated. Everyone from the cancer coaches to the fundraising team and right through to the incredible board of directors as well. It's a really dedicated team. Was that a big driving force for you in making a big move?
Yeah, definitely. And I was really excited to join the organization, but, you're right. There is a fantastic team and right through all of those groups that you mentioned, certainly the staff team, the volunteers, the board of directors, and really, all of those groups working with a community to build, what they've built in this foundation and ensuring that the foundation can provide funds for clinical trials, for research. And the cancer coaching program that you mentioned, has to be the jewel in the crown because, what coaches do for patients and their families and walking through this diagnosis with them is nothing short of remarkable. And, it's really important work that they're doing. And if there is, in fact, anybody listening who has been diagnosed with cancer, I mean, I would encourage you to reach out to the foundation. The cancer coaching program is available. They'll help you and your family deal with the issues and the health concerns and the stress, and just help you navigate the system and get the best care possible. So it's a really critical, important program.
And for those that may not be familiar, Michael, you're driving down sort of Riverside, Alta Vista, right across from our big, beautiful, of course, post office there, Canada Post. You see the building. You see the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. And I've often thought, because I've had an opportunity to go there for events and, to meet with my colleagues, et cetera, when I've had an opportunity to attend many events there. But I often, as I'm walking up that beautiful sort of laneway up to the front doors, think about somebody walking in those doors for the very first time, knowing that they've been diagnosed with cancer and they're going there for help. Have you ever thought about it from that perspective of what it's like to sort of be brave and walk in those doors for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember walking in those doors for the first time and sort of pausing actually out front of the building and trying to really stand in the shoes of, that individual who has been diagnosed with cancer and what that must feel like to walk into the building. And, the way that the building is designed and the way that the property is laid out in the Cancer Survivors Park, I mean, it's really built as a facility to offer that care and compassion and taking care of the needs of that individual and their family. And, a very warm and welcoming space. It actually looks like a home and not an institution. So, that's very intentional. And just offering that warm, comfortable space for a cancer patient and their family to come and take part in the services that we offer.
It really is a place like no other in this city. And why do you think it was so important that organization be here in Ottawa? Why is this such a crucial piece to be here in the capital?
Well, I think it's really a response from the community. And, I mean, this center was built with the support of the community. And it was really, I think, the community saying to those who've been diagnosed with cancer that we want to take care of you. We want to create this space in the city where you can go and you can receive this coaching. You can get help dealing with that diagnosis and walking through the journey that cancer is for families. And I think it almost serves as a beacon on this corner in the city, one that offers hope to families and something that's really special in the community as we, seek to make sure that more people survive this terrible diagnosis.
Let's talk about the word hope for a minute, because I think that's a really important place to sort of land. I think when we thought about cancer 20 or 30 years ago, the prognosis was usually very grim. The clinical trials, cancer coaching, what we know now, the great work of doctors like Dr. John Bell has really changed the story of cancer for many people. Is that another driving force for the work of the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about survivorship a lot, and, cancer survival rates have really changed. They've improved, and we're estimating right now that 63% of people who are diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime will actually survive. So that number's changed, a great deal over the last decade, over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And that's exactly the kind of work that the foundation is investing in. We want to work with doctors locally, with oncologists, with researchers, with clinicians. We want to make sure that we're making that investment in local research and local therapies to benefit local families. And that's certainly a big goal for the organization is to make sure that we can fund these important programs, make sure that we can keep boosting that survival rate. We'd ultimately like that to be 100%, that every time that someone was diagnosed with cancer, that they had the opportunity to beat it.
Really is so important. Of course, this is your first week on the job, which is also an exciting time. But I'm sure there's lots of things to learn. Where do you start as a leader, and how do you sort of get to know an organization as deep as the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation?
Yeah, I think, and the interesting thing actually, is doing that during a pandemic, which, makes it even a little bit more difficult. But I think really just starting with conversations. I mean, you mentioned earlier, so many great people that are part of this organization, both staff, board members, and volunteers. And, I've been really starting with these conversations about the work that the foundation is doing in the community. And, just meeting everybody in the organization, either in person, safely from a distance, or, virtually using tools like Zoom. But just having those conversations and really getting to understand the important work that's happening in the community and learning more about it and, getting excited about where we're going as an organization and how we can grow our vision and mission.
Really important. And, when we take on those new jobs, often we want to think about how we can leave, our own lasting legacy there. Have you given any thought of where you sort of see the organization in 5 or 10 years from now and what maybe skill set you bring to take the organization to a new level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we all think about, in leadership, and it may be a little early, on day 3 to specifically articulate that. But, I think I joined the organization because, this is an important cause to me and one that's important to our community. I mean, 1 in every 2 people, on average, will receive a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. I mean, you and I talking, the stats say that 1 of us will hear that diagnosis. And, that's what really, I think, motivated me to become part of the organization. And that goal of survivorship, increasing that beyond the 63% that it sits at right now. So, I think from a legacy point of view, if that's something that I can play a small role in boosting in our community, that would be a huge win for all of us. I mean, there's about 30,000 people living with cancer right now in Ottawa seeking treatment. And thousands more that will be diagnosed in this year. And if I can play a small role in and ensuring that, someone can beat that disease, and do better and live with cancer, then I think I'll have had success.
Sounds beautiful to me. I certainly look forward to the journey. So many nonprofits are really struggling right now, and many nonprofit leaders, whether you're at the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation or at another organization, are up at night. We're worried about what it's going to mean in this country with COVID, with the economic challenges. Is there anything, even in your early days, that are keeping you up at night?
Yeah, there are a couple of things, and one of them is that I mentioned there's roughly 8,000 newly diagnosed cancer patients each year in the city of Ottawa, and we know that during the pandemic, some of those treatments, some of those surgeries have been canceled, and that's had a huge impact on people living with cancer diagnosis. It means that their care, they haven't received care yet. That's had a huge impact on people's mental health, for sure. And there are many, many more people in the community who may not yet have been diagnosed with cancer, who may have cancer and not yet know it. So, the pandemic has certainly had an effect there. But it's also had a pretty broad effect on, our capacity to raise funds. One of the early meetings that I had, I learned that, 83 events so far since COVID have been canceled, which has had a huge impact on, the amount of money that we've raised within the organization so far this year. So, when revenue is impacted, of course, that impacts our ability to provide these research grants and these grants to clinical trials. And so I think what keeps me up is definitely the pandemic. And unfortunately, I think the pandemic has had an effect, since March, but I think it's going to be one that we'll feel the ripples for many years to come.
Yes, I unfortunately agree with you on that, Michael. I prefer not to, but I do have to agree with you there. We have so much more to talk about. I'm so glad you're going to stick with me. Michael Maidment of the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. Stay with us here on An Hour to Give. And we're continuing our conversation today with the newly appointed President and CEO of the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation, Michael Maidment. And like you said, Michael, it's an exciting time, and you've got a brand new team to get to work with as well. Where did you start? Who's on your team? Let's talk about that first. And what are your very first conversations with them like?
Yeah, it was really just, starting with the fundraising team and, really trying to understand the strategies and what projects the organization was working on. I mean, I guess last week or the week before I joined the organization officially, we just held a remarkable breakfast where, just over $1 million was raised in a virtual breakfast format. And this is a breakfast that normally would have taken place in May, but we pushed it into September. And because we couldn't meet, we did so virtually, and that was really a remarkable event, not only for the amount of money raised, but just telling the stories of those who've been affected by cancer, both families that have been affected, but also having conversations with researchers, Dr. John Bell, who was interviewed during that breakfast, and really just featuring the work that's being done through the Ottawa Hospital here, right here locally in Ottawa, the research and the clinical trials and all the work that's being done so that people can live through a cancer diagnosis.
Really is incredible. When I think about the best of the best, certainly the name Dr. John Bell comes to mind. And, we've had a number of conversations with Dr. Bell over the years. And, he has really indicated that the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation so often will fund a clinical trial, which allows more money then to be funneled into that important work. So the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation plays a critical role.
Yeah, and it's really that partnership, that we have, this long-term partnership we have between the foundation and the Ottawa Hospital. And, the foundation, the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation, has granted about $42 million to local research projects and clinical trials since it began 25 years ago. which is a huge impact. And we know that, this groundbreaking work is happening, right here, in Ottawa. So what great way to deal with this diagnosis, this terrible disease, by investing, in our local hospital and in this local research and these clinical trials.
It's such a valid point, because I think so many people think about, a lot of medical research being done in big, massive cities of millions of people. And right here in our very own city of 1 million, there's incredible work being done in it, which attracts the brightest talents as well to this city.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things, one of the reasons I think why I chose Ottawa, as home, growing up in Newfoundland and making my way to Ottawa, which every Newfoundlander moves to the mainland, it seems. But, one of the reasons why I chose Ottawa was that very reason. And it's incredible, actually, to see the work that's happening, the research that's happening, just the healthcare system that we have here in Ottawa. And we know that so many of us are going to be diagnosed with cancer, but, I feel pretty confident that, here in Ottawa, we have a top-notch healthcare system, top-notch hospitals that are going to help us deal with that diagnosis. And now to be part of a foundation that's helping to fund that research, is really an honor.
It really is, I think, every new president and CEO's dream to walk into an organization a week after it just raised $1 million. I can't even imagine what that was like, and to see that developing, knowing that you're going to get to work with that incredible group of people.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty impressive. And, I think sometimes we walk into situations where, there's something to fix, and to walk in just a week after that breakfast occurred was pretty remarkable. And, I think I wrote on social media after the breakfast, I mean, to walk into an organization that enjoys such broad support in the community is I think, every CEO's dream, to be part of a team that has that kind of support, from its community is really a dream.
How important is it for corporate Ottawa to step up during this time as well? I know so many businesses have been affected, so many individuals have been affected as well during COVID-19. But how important is it that you really lean on the likes of Ian Sherman, who we're going to get to chat with in a little bit, people like that in the business community?
Yeah, I mean, people like Ian are incredible leaders in the community, and it's really leaders, corporate leaders like Ian that make organizations, like ours work. I mean, the support that he provides, the support that corporate Ottawa provides is critical. I mean, especially now during COVID. I mean, just having 83 events canceled has had a pretty dramatic impact on our revenue so far this year. And although we, were wildly successful with the breakfast, we're raising money to invest in that research and in clinical trials and in that coaching program that's essential. So, from our point of view, we want to make sure that we get those donations so that we can provide that critical care to people, to help guide them through the system and through their diagnosis and support them and their families. And that only really happens if people support our foundation. So corporate support is, certainly a hallmark of what we do and a critical part of our success.
You've had many families and individuals step up as well. What does that do to sort of the morale of your team when they know so many people are invested in the work that you're doing? Yeah,
I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, that once you start in this sector, you get addicted to the impact, and I think it's a really kind of interesting way to describe why people work in the nonprofit sector and in the charitable sector. I mean, we love to have impact in the community. That's why we do what we do. And the team here is no different. I mean, they care a great deal about the community, and that's why they come to work every day and why they work so hard to raise the funds that they do, because they really want to have that impact on families and on patients who are diagnosed with cancer. And I think I see it. I saw it when I walked in for the first day, and it's continued, right through the fundraising team, through the administration team, right down through the whole organization. We rally around those who receive that diagnosis, and we want to make sure that we can give them, the best hope that we can, given that cancer diagnosis.
In these early days, of course, you're going to have lots of conversations, Michael, with many different people. Who's a conversation that you really dream to have? Someone in the community, whether it be a political figure or maybe somebody in the community that you feel can really move the mission of the Ottawa Regional Cancer forward?
It's really interesting. I had my first conversation with the Ottawa Hospital team this morning, and this is, I think, a critical conversation, for us to have this partnership that we have with the Ottawa Hospital and the Cancer Clinic and the Research Institute, and I'm really looking forward to enhancing that relationship and deepening it, because cancer is such a serious diagnosis, and although we've had a great impact on the funds that we've provided, I think that there's an opportunity for us to do really so much more in the community. So I was really excited to have that conversation this morning, and I know that we have some other conversations coming up, and we're working really closely to grow that partnership and make sure that we can help anybody who receives that cancer diagnosis. So I think that will be the one right now.
Yeah, that's a great answer, because I think those partnerships are so key. Let's talk about the opportunity for you to really have an impact locally, because I think that's a really big piece. A lot of the work that you do happens, of course, right here in this city. If someone's listening right now and they want to reach out to you, whether it's to welcome you to your new role, or whether it's an opportunity to have a discussion about funding or programming, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can just visit our website, ottawacancer.ca, and you'll find email and telephone numbers and, great information about the programs that we offer, the cancer coaching program, but also, ways that you can get involved in supporting the community. And I would love to hear from people if they wanted to pick up the phone and give us a call. That would be really great to receive their support and know that they care so much about people in the community with cancer.
You've come from an organization that dealt with a lot of vulnerable people, and I think you're going to an organization that also has a lot of vulnerability attached to people that are looking for their services. What's it like to work in an environment like that all the time? Because there can be a lot of challenges. How do you care for yourself?
I think I'm driven a lot by, helping other people. And I think that's something that I got from my own family. And, I was really, really close to my grandparents. And I tell this story often, that my grandmother had a specific impact on me and her community and her little town in Newfoundland. I mean, I would see her in the kitchen cooking food for someone who had lost a job and, needed help with groceries. Or I remember making sandwiches for firefighters who were, fighting a forest fire that was, right at the edge of our town. I mean, she was always doing something, visiting someone who lived in a long-term care facility or visiting somebody in the hospital. There was a joke with my grandfather that he was an orphan because my grandmother was never at home. And so I think I'm really driven by that sense, that I learned from her, that, I'm rewarded by helping, in the community. And I think, that there's a real intersection between the Ottawa Cancer Foundation and the Ottawa Food Bank. And, I remember a story several years ago where there was a gentleman, a former public servant, who had a cancer diagnosis, and he was on the street actually begging for money because he was off work so long that his long-term disability ran out and he couldn't afford his cancer medication. So his choice was to pay for that medication or pay for food. So he paid for his medication to try and keep living, but then needed to be on the corner asking for help to buy food. And, that's something that I saw at the Ottawa Food Bank all the time. these choices that people make. And so I think that there's a real intersection between, the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation and organizations like the Ottawa Food Bank and people who struggle to make that choice every day.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We're going to be chatting with Ian Sherman after this. Thank you so much to Michael Maidment, new president and CEO of the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. Stay with us.